You're lost. Not geographically, but in life. You don't know what you want. You don't know where you're going. You don't know who you're supposed to be. And everyone around you seems to have it figured out while you're just floating. Rumi would tell you something surprising. Being lost isn't your problem. Asking the wrong questions is your problem. Because there are 3 questions that instantly show you the way. 3 questions that transform confusion into clarity. And once you ask them, you'll never feel truly lost again. Most people ask the wrong questions when they're lost. They ask, what should I do? What's the right choice? What will make me successful? What do other people think I should do? These questions take you further from the path, not closer to it, because they're all external. They're looking for answers outside yourself. And the more you search externally, the more lost you become. Because the path isn't out there. The path is inside you. And Rumi's 3 questions help you find it. The first question is this: what makes you come alive? Not what makes you happy. Not what makes you comfortable. Not what makes you look good. But what makes you feel most alive, most present, most like yourself? This question cuts through all the noise, all the shoulds, all the expectations, and it points directly to your truth. Because the things that make you come alive are breadcrumbs. They're showing you the direction of your path. And most people ignore them because they don't look like the path. They think they should be on. Think about the last time you felt truly alive. Not just entertained, not just distracted, but alive. Where were you? What were you doing? Who were you with? Most importantly, what quality was present in that moment? Was it creativity, connection, freedom, challenge? That quality is a clue. It's showing you what your soul needs. And your path will always include more of that quality, not less. But most people are on paths that systematically remove what makes them feel alive. And they wonder why they feel dead inside. Rumi would tell you to pay attention to aliveness, not as a luxury, as a compass. When you're considering a decision, a direction, a choice, ask yourself, will this bring me more alive or less? And trust that answer, not the logical answer, not the safe answer, not the answer that makes sense to other people, the aliveness answer. Because your soul knows the way. It's been showing you through moments of aliveness your entire life. You've just been trained to ignore it in favor of more practical considerations. But practical paths that make you feel dead are not actually practical. They're just slow forms of dying. The second question is this: what am I afraid of? This question is crucial because fear is often disguised as confusion. You think you don't know what to do, but actually you know exactly what to do. You're just terrified of doing it. So your mind creates confusion as a protection mechanism. It keeps you stuck in analysis so you don't have to face the fear of action. And you can stay stuck for years thinking you're trying to figure it out when really you're just avoiding what you already know about. So ask yourself honestly, what am I actually afraid of? Am I afraid of failure? Of judgment? Of disappointing someone? Of being alone? Of succeeding and then having to maintain that success? Of discovering I'm not who I thought I was? Of losing what I have? Of wanting something I'm not supposed to want? Get specific, because vague fear keeps you paralyzed. But when you name the fear specifically, you can evaluate whether it's legitimate or whether it's just your mind trying to keep you safe in a cage. Most of the time, when you honestly look at what you're afraid of, you realize it's not actually that scary. You're not afraid of the thing itself. You're afraid of a story you're telling yourself about the thing. You're afraid of what it might mean about you, what others might think, what you might lose. But these are all just thoughts, just stories, just possibilities that might never happen. And you're letting these imaginary scenarios control your entire life, keeping you from the path that's actually yours because you're afraid of a future that doesn't even exist yet. Rumi would say that fear is not a stop sign. Fear is a sign that you're on the edge of something real, something that matters, something that could actually change your life. So don't let fear tell you you're on the wrong path. Let fear tell you you're getting close to the right one, and then move toward it anyway. Not recklessly, but courageously, because courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is feeling the fear and recognizing it's not a good enough reason to stay stuck. The third question is this: what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? This question removes all the noise, all the practical concerns, all the what-ifs, and it shows you what you actually want. Because when you remove the fear of failure, what remains is desire. Pure, unfiltered desire. And that desire is a message from your soul about your path. It's not random. It's not foolish. It's your inner compass pointing you toward your truth. Most people never ask this question because they think it's impractical. They think desire without considering failure is naive. But Rumi would tell you the opposite. Considering failure before considering desire is what's impractical. Because when you start with what could go wrong, you never discover what could go right. You never access the vision of what you're actually here to do. You just access the fear of what might happen if you try. And that fear becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't try because you're afraid you'll fail. And because you don't try, you guarantee the failure of never attempting. So remove failure from the equation. Not forever. Just for this question. Ask yourself, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? And watch what comes up. Don't judge it. Don't immediately dismiss it as unrealistic. Just notice it. Because that answer, that immediate response, is showing you something true about who you are and what you're meant to do. And once you see it clearly, you can start asking the practical questions. How do I move toward this? What's one small step I can take? Who do I need to become to make this possible? But you can't ask those questions until you first admit what you actually want. Here's how these three questions work together. The first question shows you the quality of your path. What makes you come alive reveals the essence of what you're seeking. The second question shows you what's blocking your path. What you're afraid of reveals why you're stuck. And the third question shows you the destination of your path. What you do if you couldn't fail reveals where you're meant to go. Together, these three questions create a map. Not a detailed map, but a directional map. And direction is all you need when you're lost. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to see the next step. And these three questions show you that step. If what makes you come alive is creativity, if what you're afraid of is judgment, and if what you'd do if you couldn't fail is make art, then your next step is obvious. Create something. Share it with one person. Not the whole world. Just one person. That's the step. And once you take it, the next step will reveal itself. But you can't see the next step until you take the current one. That's how paths work. They unfold as you walk them. But most people want the whole path laid out before they take the first step. They want guarantees. They want certainty. They want to know it will work out before they begin. And because they never get that certainty, they never begin. They stay stuck at the starting point, waiting for a clarity that only comes through movement. Rumi would tell you to stop waiting. Stop demanding to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step, and trust that the path reveals itself to those who walk it, not to those who stand still analyzing it. Here's what happens when you ask these three questions honestly. First, you feel discomfort, because the answers challenge everything you've been telling yourself. They show you that you've known the way all along. You've just been afraid to admit it. Second, you feel relief. Because clarity, even uncomfortable clarity, is better than confusion. At least now you know what you're dealing with. At least now you can make a choice. And third, you feel something shift. Not everything, not immediately, but something. A small opening, a possibility, a sense that maybe you're not as lost as you thought. And that's all you need. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need a 10-year plan. You don't need to know how it's all going to work. You just need to know the next right step. And these 3 questions show you that step. Not in a flash of lightning, not in a dramatic moment of revelation, but in a quiet knowing, a sense of yes, this is the direction. This is where my aliveness is pointing. This is what I'm avoiding because I'm afraid. And this is what I'd do if I believed in myself. Rumi taught that being lost is not a problem to solve. It's an invitation to listen. Most people experience lostness and panic. They immediately try to fix it. Find the answer. Make a plan. Take action. Any action. Just to feel less uncomfortable. But Rumi would say that lostness is actually a gift. It's your soul telling you that the path you were on wasn't yours. It's creating space for you to find the path that actually is. And that requires listening, not rushing. Stillness, not frantic movement. Questions, not immediate answers. So when you feel lost, don't panic. Ask the questions. What makes me come alive? What am I afraid of? What would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Sit with these questions. Don't rush to answer them. Let them work on you. Let them reveal what's been hidden. Let them show you what you already know, but haven't been willing to admit. And then slowly, carefully, take one step in the direction they're pointing. Not a leap, not a dramatic change. Just one step, and see what happens. Because here's what Rumi discovered. The path doesn't require you to have it all figured out. The path only requires you to be honest about what makes you come alive, what you're afraid of, and what you actually want. Once you have that honesty, the path starts to appear. Not all at once, not with perfect clarity, but enough. Enough to take the next step, and then the next, and then the next, until one day you look back and realize you're not lost anymore. You're exactly where you need to be, not because you followed someone else's map, but because you asked the right questions and trusted the answers that came from within. The 3 questions are simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. Asking them requires courage. Answering them requires honesty. Following them requires trust. But if you do, if you really do, you'll discover what Rumi knew. You were never actually lost. You just forgot how to listen to the compass you've had inside you all along.